My name is Zakari Wundowa. I honestly believe that I might be somewhat lucky that I currently don't face as much racism as I did when I was younger. I work in an industry where people have supported and accepted me, but I don't think that's always been the case. I grew up in Hackney, surrounded by people with so many varying ethnicities and backgrounds. I myself am Ghanaian. Even when being in a primary school where it was cooler to be Jamaican or from the Caribbean, honestly, I was damn proud to be from the Gold Coast. I learnt my ancestors were warriors. I learnt my great-granduncles fought in Burma during World War II. At a young age, my dad used to rent movies for us to watch. Kids' films, martial arts films, which now play a big role in why I'm in my industry, and films about slavery. And I'll never forget those stories. My parents were never shy about the racism that they had suffered. We moved to Barking and Dagenham when I was 11. At the time, it was predominantly a white area. I've had my run-ins with the BNP. Walking right past as a group conveyed their messages out on the streets. I've sat next to one in a library, which was both a funny and awkward story. We were the third black family on our street. On our right was a wide alleyway. To our left lived a woman and her adult son. They really hated us. The next house was an old couple. The woman was lovely. The man, he hated us even more than the next door neighbours. On a sunny day, me and my cousin were playing football out in the alleyway. He came out of his house and walked around to the alleyway and told us we couldn't play. We were being too disruptive. We came inside. My dad was furious, and we went back outside as a result. I should have stood up for myself during my school years. I said nothing when I was 12, when on one occasion a kid called me a gorilla. I've always been skinny. I was told to go back to Africa. I was older than him by a few months, and enough to say that I'd lived in England longer than he even existed. Another laughed at my facial features. I think my white girlfriend would probably disagree. But that was all primary school. Secondary school was a different game altogether, and I was just one of many cases. I was hugely into my athletics and sport. When we were in year 7, the first PE lesson we had was a bleep test. I ran till I was the last one left. They stopped me when I got to 13.8 as the lesson had finished and our assembly was about to start. As a result, I got a huge cheer. I wanted to play football at the same time. In year 7, me and my friends who were also black, we all went to tryouts, but unfortunately none of us got through, and my friends vowed that they wouldn't do it again, feeling they hadn't even been noticed slightly. I didn't want to give up. A year later, I finally made it into the team. There were 3 of us in the team who were black. One had made the team previously, but regardless of his skill, his place was assured. 90% of that team were all friends, and it would have been impossible for them to have singled him out. For us too, we got a few games as substitutes, but we were never contacted again, even as matches continued. We had our own personal shirts and numbers for the first time in our school. They spelt my name wrong. It was another thing that had always happened to my family, something we'd always had to just deal with. But they refused to give me a refund for what I'd paid for or to rectify the mistake. The issue wasn't that I was given a small chance. It was that others who wanted to play never did. There were other black boys or ethnic minorities who dubbed me the black guy on the football team. It felt wrong because I knew there were better players out there who weren't white, but for reasons that are unknown, they never got their shot. When we had to do cross-country and PE, running around on our muddy field, rugby fields non-stop, everyone would let out a groan for 2 reasons. They hated it, of course, and they knew that I was going to lap them. I only remember coming second place once, and I remember thinking that next PE lesson we had, I wouldn't let him beat me. He came second that next time, and I'd lapped him. It was a small victory, but it meant nothing when he was chosen to be the school's cross-country team. Other students had asked me repeatedly why I wasn't in it. I didn't know how to answer really. I never got asked or offered, and even when I had approached a coach about it, and despite the same results happening in PE, I never was on the team. At the end of year 8, my mother died. Her name was Gladys Wundowa, and she was killed in an explosion on the 7th of July 2005. She was leaving work, travelling to her second job. 15 years on, I still remember the confusion, the fear. My dad spent 2 weeks going to every hospital in London trying to locate her. Despite this, he had told me that I should understand that she was likely not alive. We were eventually invited to identify the body. It was her. And as much as this is a topic within itself, I'll sum this up. We as a family were sure that they had harvested her organs. I think it should have been something that should have been discussed with us, but hopefully someone was saved as a result. I'd like to think that she would have wanted that. The real issue was when the government decided to compensate us. No, the compensation isn't the issue. What was is that they asked my dad several questions about his criminal record. He had none. They asked about his criminal record in Ghana. My dad lived in the UK at that point for over 25 years. He was clean. But the question was why? I'm not exactly sure if any other families had had those questions, but that was my first encounter knowing that it all went to the top. I went back to school. I missed tryouts for the next 2 years, but I was offered to play in the B team for 2 games, and we were all quick to notice the high percentage of ethnic players. In one of the matches, there were only 2 white players. One of them was English. Some of these players were amazing too. They'd outplayed players from the A team or embarrassed them during lunch matches or our own after-school matches. But like I said, they never got their shot. And I was starting to get older, now looking more of a threat to people. I would get followed around shops by security guards so much it was normal. On 2 occasions, I had a police car stop in front of me. The officers would stare at me, discerning my facial features. I always stopped and calmly looked up. The whole street would watch idle. Eventually, they would drive on, but the stares wouldn't stop. I learnt so much about the distrust of black youths, I started changing. If it was dark, I would be the one to cross the road. I didn't want to make people uncomfortable. I didn't want people to think I was a threat. I stopped using a lot of slang. I didn't want people to use that as a way to talk down to me. Honestly, I made a conscious effort to look at security guards when I entered a shop, to say, this is my face, you've seen me, do you still think I'm going to steal something now that you have? And then something clicked. I've stopped looking away. I've stopped letting it get swept under the rug. And if they don't like me, let's say a regional manager from a previous job, so be it. I work hard. I have nothing to prove or fear. I am unapologetically black African. I've had the honour to stand among my peers and present my work dressed in African garbs, to attend award ceremonies representing my people. Nobody can take that away from me or the people who have supported me. My ancestors fought against those who tried to enslave them. I'm just continuing the fight against our oppressors. My name is Wundowa, and if the colour of my skin intimidates you, if my voice terrifies you, and if my presence makes you angry, well, I don't give a shit. Get the fuck out of my face.